Hello, hello, and welcome to another fantastic session with myself. I'm all alone today. Shimante, hello. I'm with my friends. That's who I'm with. Hello, Anushka. What's going on? Arena, hello. Premed parent. Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Application Academy. This is a little bit of a different kind of session. We have Application Academy starting next week. We're still finalizing. Emily on our team, who's kind of behind the scenes right now, has been harassing me for schedule. We need to finalize that schedule because we're starting next week, which is crazy. So that'll be part of it. Benita from Edison. I know exactly where Edison is because I have family in Edison. Ligia? How do you say that? From the Bay Area. What's going on? Leslie from Chicago. Ryan from Arizona. Wonderful name. I will mute myself and cough as needed because I'm about 6 weeks into having this stupid cough left over from what I assume was the flu. Hello, Cade from Utah. Ramesh Josh Allen from Buffalo. Hello, Josh Allen. I'm glad you're free and no longer in the playoffs, so you can join us today. Namrata from Maryland. What's going on? I would love to get a sense of who is here. Obviously, we had at least one parent here. How many of you are applying this cycle? I'm going to stay. We can stay in the introduce yourself section. That's fine. How many of you are applying in the current cycle, the one that's starting in May? Just so I have a sense of who's here. Actually, I can do a poll too. Let me do a poll. Applying this cycle, 26, 27. Yes, no, not sure. %, yeah. 67, 56. Oh, it's going down. 20 votes, 23 votes, 26 votes, 31 votes. All right, I'm going to stop it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, poll results. 55% of you, 22 people applying this cycle, 13% of you not, and 5 of you not sure yet. I would love to know for those not sure why you're not sure, but we can definitely talk about that during our presentation today. So really the topic for today, how competitive applicants prepare. At the end of the day, and I just ate a Jolly Rancher, so my tongue is super red. Don't get freaked out. I just saw it when I'm talking here. How competitive applicants prepare. I want to talk just in general about the application process. If you've watched our workshops before, I'm probably not going to say anything groundbreaking today about competitive applicants and what they do to prepare. We will jump into a little bit of kind of what Application Academy is as well, as we're getting ready to launch that. It's a different offering that we have at medical school headquarters where you get to interact with me. It's the only thing that I do with students. And so we'll talk about that, and then we'll have tons of time for Q&A to answer whatever questions you might have. And so as we jump in to this, how students prepare, how competitive, right, applicants prepare. At the end of the day, it's understanding themselves. Plain and simple, right? It seems so simple to say it like that. Like, no. Like, they have to have a great MCAT score and a great GPA. And so tell me how they do that. Like, we could jump into, obviously, needing a good GPA, needing a good MCAT score. We can definitely talk about the different parts of what makes a competitive application. But at the core of a competitive application is a student who knows themselves. They know, number one, how to be a good student. So there's where you get the GPA aspect into it. They know how they need to prepare for the MCAT personally, not going on to Student Doctor Network or Reddit and seeing how other students prepare for the MCAT, but how do they succeed and thrive on a high stakes, hard test like the MCAT. They understand what makes them tick day in and day out for waking up each day excited about the things that they are doing. They understand that they are allowed to be human beings and not just pre-med students. And so they are going out and filling their bucket, so to speak, in activities and things that they are passionate about that have nothing to do with medicine. And that's perfectly okay. And at the end of the day, they know themselves well enough to know why they want to be physicians. They have the experiences necessary to prove to themselves that they want to be physicians. They have the experiences to prove to themselves that this is what they want to theoretically spend their career doing. And so when you think about how do competitive applicants prepare for the application, you have to start with the student knows themselves. We harp on it day in and day out at medical school headquarters and in our social media. And what we do is being reflective about the journey. Who are you and why are you here? And understanding that that is what makes a competitive application. And so when we think about what that reflection looks like, a lot of students will take it to mean, oh, I need to reflect on why being a volunteer coach for youth soccer is going to make me a better physician. And that, for me, does not make a competitive application. When students go through this journey and they explore everything through the lens of, I want to be a physician, and this is going to help me be a physician, this is going to help me get into medical school, that lens is skewed. And what we end up with is an application that looks very forced and fake. It's not authentic. To me, that's not a competitive application. That's an inauthentic sales pitch. So if you have a student you are a student that loves coaching youth soccer, volunteer coach youth soccer, fantastic. Go do that. And when you write your 700 characters for that description of that activity, you don't have to talk about how it's going to help you be a physician, how it's going to help you with your communication skills with patients. I use that example specifically because there was a student many years ago. She was actually one of my first employees at medical school headquarters back when I hired a student to help me with some things. I was giving a talk actually down the road. I live in Colorado. Down the road, I was at the medical school at University of Colorado Medical School. And I was speaking to a group that was there for a wilderness medicine program. What do you call that? A wilderness medicine conference, course. That's what it's called. This is a course, a wilderness medicine course. And I know the team that puts together the course, and they wanted me to come speak to the group because they're mostly pre-med students. So I went and gave the talk, and the student said, "Hey, I'm a pre-med student. My advisor told me that I should stop doing my coaching of youth soccer because it has nothing to do with medicine." And that was my first kind of big, holy moly, there's some really bad advice out there. All right. Maybe it's not wrong. That's their opinion, but I think it's really bad advice. Again, students can go through this process and be themselves and do the things that they enjoy, while also understanding that, yeah, there are things that you need to do to prepare for medical school. And so I talked to that student and I said, no, like, keep coaching soccer because you enjoy it. And guess what? You're allowed to be a human being who enjoys things outside of medicine. That student had no issue getting into medical school. And I need to check in with her. It's been a while since I've checked in with her. So when we think about a competitive application, again, I think the default, actually, I'm going to do some polls. I should have made these polls beforehand. Um, uh, uh, um, all right. I did another poll. What do you think makes a competitive application? MCAT, GPA, research, clinical, shadowing, leadership, something else? MCAT, 1 vote. 2 votes, MCAT. Oh, we got clinical coming in. Coming down the stretch. All right. Something else. Lots of something else is coming in. For those of you who are answering something else, go to the chat. Go back to the Ask a Question channel and let me know what you think the something else is. I would love to know. All right, let's go ahead and close this poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so we get the results here. Clinical, 16 votes. Something else. I want to know what you guys mean by something else. And maybe I kind of gave it away a little bit, or you're leaning into what I was talking about with the knowing themselves. But I would love to know what you mean there. How to tell your story, the why med in your app, cohesive application that tells a story of why the student wants to go into medicine, everything. Yeah. I love it because I think you guys are onto something. At the end of the day, we see students who come to medical school headquarters, schedule a consult call, schedule an advising session with one of our advisors, and they have a 522 MCAT score, 4.0 GPA, and they're like, I didn't get any interviews. What happened? Obviously, MCAT and GPA were not an issue for that student. Almost never do we look at an application and say, oh my gosh, you don't have enough leadership. Almost never do we look at an application and say, oh my gosh, you don't have enough research. But so often we'll look at an application and go, oh my gosh, you don't have enough clinical experience. And not having enough clinical experience leads to not being able to tell your story effectively. And for us, being able to tell your story effectively means being able to say, here is why I want to be a physician. And so it's a kind of a domino effect, a butterfly effect, if you want to call it that. The upstream effect, the upstream thing is lack of clinical experience. The downstream effect of that is the inability to tell your story. And so that falls into the something else here, right? Being able to show the admissions committee, I know I want to be a physician. Here are the experiences that I've had that have confirmed that this is what I want. At the end of the day, right, I said, how do students best prepare? Is knowing themselves. First and foremost, they have to know for themselves why they want to be physicians. And the only way, in my opinion, a student does that is by getting clinical experience. You have to take care of people who are not related to you, to truly understand what that connection looks like, what those emotions look like. Because without that connection, without those emotions, for me, everything that you tell me about why you want to be a physician is either A, theoretical about taking care of patients, or B, based off of cliche. When I say based off of cliche, there are some super common cliches out there. And for those of you in the chat, go to the ask a question. What are the cliches that you've thought about, heard about, seen me talk about in the past when it comes to wanting to be a physician? What does that look like? I'll remove this poll. Because I love it. Love science and want to help people. I like science and caring for people. Yeah. I was talking to a student talking with a student earlier today who was asking about how to work on their personal statement, and they shared a TV show. Yeah, that's a good one. They shared with me their initial thoughts on the story that they're going to tell, and it's because they want to know more so they can do more. And boy, did my cliche meter go off the charts. Knowing more to do more. Is that specific to medicine? Knowing more to do more. No, lawyer, PhD, etc. Anything. I want to know more about electricity so I can do more as an electrician. I want to know more about whatever, rocket science, so I can be a rocket scientist. It's the most generic thing ever. And when I read a personal statement for a student that hasn't prepared well and understand who they are themselves, and number two, what the goal of the medical school application is, that's what happens. I read an application where I'm like, I have no idea why you want to be a physician. I see you want to do more, but great. Like, go do that. I don't think I've told this story in a while, right? Several of you put here, like, love science. I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help people. I'll tell this story. It's actually interesting because the conference that this was at, they just had another one this year. But many years ago, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I was at a conference in Florida. I went to the grocery store to stock up on some food for the hotel. I got an Uber. They picked me up at the grocery store. I was already there. And making small talk with the Uber driver, said, how's your day? And the Uber driver said, great, I'm helping people. And I just was like, yes, thank you for saying that. Thank you for giving me material for when I talk to students and say, you can help people in every field, in everything. You can help people being a banker, giving people loans, paying for their houses, like giving mortgages. You can help people as an Uber driver, taking them to and from places they want to be. You can help people in every facet of life. You don't have to be a physician to help people. You have to take care of patients and know that that is what you want. So how do competitive applicants prepare? By getting that clinical experience and putting that story together. So when I go back to this poll of, won't let me present results again. It's so funny. They hide the button. You got to dig a little deeper, right? Clinical experience, 100%. Number one mistake we see day in and day out for students not getting into medical school is the lack of clinical experience to prove to themselves why they want to be a physician. They cannot communicate it in the application, which also falls under something else. So if we add the two together at the top, there's 60+% of the votes. Yes. Lack of clinical, lack of story. Lack of story, often because lack of clinical. But there are the students who seemingly do have it all. The student has a good GPA. The student has a good MCAT score. The student has clinical experience. They have shadowing. They have research. Where does that student then fall off? If they have it all, then it has to come down to the story itself. And if you guys have watched any of my application renovation videos, have any of you watched any of those? By the way, they're back. I recorded one the other day. Oftentimes, students have, in my opinion, the wrong idea of the goal of the application. I tell this story all the time about a student who applied to medical school first time around, didn't get in. No interviews, terrible application, terrible stats, just wasn't ready for medical school. She realized that she wasn't ready for medical school from an academic perspective. She then fixed the academic perspective. She applied to medical school again, second time around, had 6 interviews, I believe. 6 interviews, waitlisted and rejected at all of the schools. Waitlisted and then rejected, or waitlisted or rejected. Didn't get in anywhere. Came to me. This was many years ago, before I had a team of advisors. It was just me kind of hanging out, doing what I do. Came to me, found me, and we did mock interviews together. She applied again. She got 6 interviews. There's something going right in her application. And so she applied again, didn't seek out our help with the applications, but then sought out help for the interviews. I did a mock interview with her, and her performance in that mock interview is why she was rejected at every school previously, and the mistake that I feel students make when they are trying to prepare a competitive application. And that is framing everything as a sales pitch. Thinking about this process as a job interview where you have to sell yourself and sell your skills and sell the things that you're bringing to the table instead of connection. So really the second big part of this process is knowing yourself, right? The biggest part, and we've talked about being a competitive applicant, knowing yourself. And then the second part is then knowing how to communicate. So how to communicate, especially through the application process, is knowing that each part of the application has a very specific idea in mind for what you're supposed to do. Your personal statement, I'll not put up a poll, but I'll just ask for you to comment in the Ask a Question channel. What is the goal of the personal statement? Some of you who are here, follow me online or whatever, you guys have the secret sauce. What's the goal of the personal statement? You guys are posting in the other. If you guys could post in the different channel instead of introduce yourself, so I can just keep an eye on one channel. It's a little confusing to have the 2 channels. Maybe in the future we'll just have the one. Why medicine, meaning your seed, as well as watering the seed. So it's definitely straight from the book, right? If you guys know, I have a whole book on how to write your personal statement. That's the seed in the watering event. Shimate, why we want to be a doctor. Say other than stats and be human, who can be empathetic but doctor. Have the reader understand why you're going into medicine. To explain who you are, to express yourself. To express yourself in what way? Because I can express myself terribly, and and that's what temper tantrums are from little kids. Like, they're expressing themselves. That's definitely not what you want in the personal statement. Harini, why medicine? Why medicine? How I explored it. Yes, to me, that's what makes a good personal statement. What is the goal of the activities section? And I'm not forgetting about the story with Natalie. I'll come back to her and the multiple interviews and acceptances and stuff. Be authentic by enjoying the process, from Ali Abdal's book. Ali Abdal's book. Does Ali Abdal have a book about medical school? What book does he have? Or is that just the feel-good productivity book? Understand you have genuine reason to be a physician, and you will thrive as a physician. I guess that's back to the personal statement. To demonstrate, talk, and reflect on the experiences you have had as to why medicine. I love that part. So I'll come back to that. I love it because I don't love it. Shows I understand what the job is for the activity section. Okay. Reflect on how that experience impacted others and yourself. Cade, bingo. That, to me, that's the number one reason for the experiences section. What have you been doing with your time, and how has it impacted you? How have you impacted others? The activity section is not there to sell to the admissions committee, hey, look, my hobby that I'm putting on my application, I was a long distance runner as a hobby. Whoever does that as a hobby, you guys are psychopaths. But as a long distance runner, it has prepared me for medical school because I needed the mental stamina to be able to handle those long distances, et cetera, et cetera. You do not have to twist everything from something that isn't related to medicine to helping you sell why you're going to be a better physician because of it. The activity section is not an extension of the personal statement to say, and this experience helped me understand why I want to be a doctor. And this experience helped me strengthen why I want to be a doctor. And this experience helped me strengthen why I want to be a doctor. Get rid of all of those. Your personal statement, why you want to be a doctor. Your activity section, what have you been doing with your time? What does it mean to you? How have you impacted those around you? How has it impacted you? All of that. Okay. So when I interviewed Natalie, her first interview, she came, and every question I asked, it was a sales pitch answer. Super rehearsed, way over the top, allowed zero connection between us. And I knew immediately, this is what went wrong. You are coming across very harsh, very crass, very kind of not communicative, because you're talking through me and over me because you're so rehearsed and polished with your answers that have really nothing to do about my question. They're just the sales pitch that you think is important here. And so we worked together several interviews to overcome that. And it really, as soon as she understood, oh, wait, I'm not supposed to do that, that was an immediate change. And then we honed the process and improved her answers even more, while not being rehearsed and over the top. And she went from no interviews, first application cycle, just wasn't ready stat-wise, to 6 interviews, second application cycle, was ready stat-wise, horrible interview prep or no prep, to third cycle, I think she had 7 interviews, six acceptances, and then 1 wait list, I believe. Just from a change in perspective of what she's supposed to be doing. So the process of excuse me, the process of being a competitive applicant, know yourself, know how to communicate, and then third is know what to communicate and when. So it's understanding that each part of the application has a goal and a reason for why it's there. And I have my personal bias, and our team kind of is aligned on what each of those pieces mean. The personal statement, why do you want to be a doctor? The activity section, what have you been doing with your time? How has it impacted you? How did you impact it? What did it mean to you? Secondary applications, answer those darn questions as specifically as possible. Interview prep, how do you communicate and connect with someone else in a stressful environment? Each piece has a meaning and a reason why it's there. And so when we come to kind of the goal for today with Application Academy, that's the goal of Application Academy, is to go through each piece of the puzzle, talk about what it's there for, give examples of what's good, what's bad, have that conversation. It's some weekly presentations and some reviews about each part of that puzzle, and then reviewing submissions. Application Academy was born, I think, 2021, so 5 years ago now, kind of out of necessity to because I wanted to keep advising students, but I didn't have the bandwidth to do one-on-one advising anymore. And so we created Application Academy to serve that need, where I would help keep advising students in a group setting, but the process would allow me to meet with them on a regular basis as a group and work through the application and everything. And it's been super successful. It works great for students who know themselves, right? Number one in being successful is know yourself. They know that they can work well in a group environment, right? Some students can't, and that's fine. We have our one-on-one advising for that. So I want to give an example of what one of the presentations might look like. This is a presentation about activities. Let me see if I can move myself. Here, I'll do that so we can see. So this is a presentation about activities. Talk about the activities section on the application. One chance to show who you really are, what you've done, including outside of the healthcare world, right? Outside of the healthcare world. And so we would do a presentation like this. I would do a presentation like this in Application Academy to really talk through the process. I say this quote all the time. I mean, it's not really a quote. It's just a saying. Actions speak louder than words. At the end of the day, your activity section is there to show what you're interested in, because those actions are going to speak louder than words. So if you say that you're interested in rural community health and you have zero activities that speak to that, that's not going to work really well. We have we'll go through the process of kind of showing what good activities look like and what bad activities look like. This is something about consistency, because I harp on consistency and recency all the time. This is someone that looks like they're interested in what? What does this person look like they're interested in? Research and working, right? Maybe they work in research. Maybe they have to work for the job. That's fine. But research, right? So a student applies with this and they're like, hey, I want to be a doctor. And be like, it doesn't look like it. You're not doing any clinical experience. You're not putting yourself around patients. You're not shadowing. You're not putting yourself around physicians to make sure that you understand this crazy world of healthcare and medicine. It's important that your story matches your actions, what you've been doing. So we'll give a presentation, talk about all the categories. This is just some changes here. or not changes, just some specifics on things. And this presentation is a couple years old. It hasn't been updated, but it looks like that's still accurate. Although, no, it's not accurate, because ACOMAS, breaking news, guys, if you haven't heard, ACOMAS is going to 700 character descriptions for 26-27. Hallelujah. So we can copy and paste straight from AMCAS into ACOMAS, which is huge if you're applying to both. Impact. Show your impact. Show your impact through stories. What you learned, less important than who you are. So Shahithi. So for the activity section, you wouldn't recommend a more story show, not tell approach while still describing. Yeah, potentially. Not everything needs a story, but potentially if a story fits, you can do that. So this is what it would look like. We'd go through a presentation, and then we have some examples here. Let's do the example together. And let me know if you like this as an activity description. This is obviously for AMCAS at 700 characters, again for COMAS now as well, which is fantastic. So let's assume this is some sort of scrub tech, electrophysiology person as the activity. What do we like about this example? What would you change? What issues do you have with it? Albert says, I think it's okay, but maybe needs more reflection and impact for this specific patient interaction. Yeah. Albert, when you say needs more reflection, where do you see reflection, if anywhere? Too much description and not what was learned. So Alma, when you say what was learned, what kind of takeaway are you looking for in terms of learn? Shumate, use easier words. What words are not easy here, Shumate? Yes, I would agree in general. There's an idea that speaking, writing at kind of a lower grade level, it's easier to comprehend, easier to come across. How was the applicant changed by the experience? Okay. I'm not familiar if they like it, but it seems over dramatic. Okay. What's over dramatic about it, Ryan? Try to give some examples when you're writing in. Like, how can this experience help or be useful for them as a future MD or DO? All right, Alma, let's chat. I mentioned earlier, your activity section is not meant, again, my opinion, not meant to be a sales pitch for how this is going to help them be a future physician, or how it has strengthened their desire to be a physician. The activity section for me is, what did this mean to you? How did you impact it? How did it impact you? Not always are you going to be able to fit all of those three things into one. At the end of the day, the biggest one for me is, what did it mean to you? To me, that's the reflection. It says it is also not very personal. It's talking about the staff more and just saying, in essence, the privilege of learning was a pinnacle experience. Yeah. All right. So we look at this. So let's go ahead and here. Mrs. Hoban grabbed onto my hand as I placed the ECG leads on her frail body. So we're describing the patient. We're describing the table. I looked into her eyes and saw confusion, terror, anxiety. With ample staff present to set up for surgery, I decided to hold her hand as I spoke to her calmly and quietly to reduce the fear within her. So if we think about this from a personal standpoint, this is my time to show who I am, what I've done, the impact that I have on others, what it meant to me. There's not a lot of personal description here. The only personal description I see here is I held her hand and spoke to her calmly and quietly to reduce the fear within her. So lots of setup there to finally get to the actual emotion, I would say, of compassion, maybe, right? The trait that the students may be trying to add in here. Once Mrs. Hoban was intubated, I scrubbed into the thoracotomy procedure to assist the physicians as the physicians attempted to remove the cerebral clot, blah, blah, blah. Lots of backstory and setup here that just aren't super necessary. And then the reflection, the privilege of learning interventional neurology has been a pinnacle experience. How about the privilege of holding someone's hand when they're in fear or they're anxious or they're whatever? Right, so yeah, I agree. Someone had mentioned earlier that basically it was the learning experience, the privilege of learning. Albert, you said that. Working in interventional radiology, interventional cardiology, and electrophysiology, that's a lot of characters wasted right there, mentioning all of those things, has been challenging and rewarding. That's a reflection. It's not a very good reflection because I don't know what it means. Like, why? Why was that meaningful? You got to learn, and so that was challenging and rewarding. I want to know more about you as the student when you're writing this. And so the next thing that someone will ask, one of you will probably say or start typing is like, well, then how would you write this? And it's nearly impossible for me to answer those. Number one, because it takes me time to process just the way my brain works. And I wasn't in this role, so I don't know, right? I don't know what I would say here because I wasn't in that role to begin with. We have another one that we can look at here. What do we think about this one? This is a very different one. Ryan says, sounds like a LinkedIn profile. Okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Leslie shows impact. Shumate, too many stats? Question mark. I think it shows good impact, has a good learn, not perfect, but is decent. Benita says, bad thing. That it sounds like a LinkedIn profile. Why is it a bad thing? Why are we connecting that with bad? I'm not disagreeing. I'm just, I want a little more clarity there. Like better, but too many numbers, shortening, and why a bit more in the last sentence. Sells, seems like a selling pitch you're talking about. Okay. Not a lot of reflection, too much of a sales pitch. What kind of reflection potentially would you want to see here, Benita? So I'll read this, right? I joined the LGBT Health Workforce Conference as a social media director, where I worked closely with the planning committee to develop our first Facebook outreach initiative. By designing engaging visuals and social media posts, we drove targeted engagement and contributed to increasing both the number of registrants and abstracts submitted. 2017 conference registered more than 300 health professionals and received over 60 abstracts, a 10% and 50% increase from 2016, respectively. I learned that empowering our healthcare professionals to better address the needs of LGBT individuals is a crucial step towards lessening health disparities that disproportionately impact this community. Okay. Benita, when you say more clinical, what do you mean there? Disconnect between reflection and the role. Could connect that more for me. Why is there a disconnect between the reflection and the role? Remove the title and organization since that's included. Yep, definitely. That's just a style thing where a lot of times you can save characters on the writing because the the like experience name and experience title will be included as other data points on the application. Is it too much telling rather than showing? So here's an important caveat where I get I'll talk to advisors and they'll be like, "Oh, I know who you are." I'm like, "Uh-oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?" And they're like, "Oh, my students just come in and everything is a story and it's too much story." I'm like, "I agree with you. There's too much story." My advice on stories has been perverted over the years where everything has to have a story and everything has to show. Sometimes activities don't have to do that, right? And I would argue that not every activity should do that. What kind of story could someone tell here as a social media director? Oh, it was 11:59 on Saturday night and we needed a new Facebook header image and I was coming down the stretch to make that image and at 11:59 and 59 seconds I clicked publish and boy it was up and I saved the day. All right? We don't need a story that talks about a social media director. What I mentioned earlier in terms of showing who you are, showing what you've done, showing the impact that you have. There's impact here, right? I love numbers to show impact where it's appropriate and when there's a good activity where you can show that. And so these numbers show impact. Could it be written better? Always, right? We can always write things better. And these examples are from a couple of years ago. And even my perspective on them has probably changed over the years. I would love to know why this is important for the student. Right? I think we get a little bit of that at the end to say, hey, we need to address the needs of LGBT individuals to lessen health disparities that disproportionately impact the community. I would maybe move that to the top to say I became involved in this conference because X, Y, or Z. So I would love to have a little bit more awareness of the importance to them. I would love to potentially have the reasoning for what they're hoping maybe a little bit earlier. Again, the empowering healthcare professionals to better address the needs of LGBT individuals as what is the goal of this conference. So there are a few things potentially we could nitpick here to bring apart, but I wanted to use this example too. And again, this is just part of a deck that I had from Academy a couple of years ago, was because it shows that not everything needs a story. Not everything has to show and not tell. So I think that's an important part of it. But we go through this process. We go through some examples, lots of examples here you can see, and then we answer some questions. So that would be part of Application Academy where we have a presentation. I'm showing you, here's my thought process on this specific part of the application. Here's what I think this specific part of the application is meant for, and how do we convey that information. The other part of Application Academy, a huge part of Application Academy, is the actual group review of essays. So in Application Academy, you'll have basically a form that you submit. We keep everything anonymous, and it looks like this. And so you can see here, these are submissions that we used for another workshop a while ago, where you can see this submission is an AMCAS activity plus a most meaningful description. And so for AMCAS, you get 700 characters for the activity description, and then you get 1,325 characters for the most meaningful. And then how that works here is the student submits it. You can see it's just a date that they submitted it. And then we use this code to anonymize it. And so only the student knows this code. I mean, we have it on the back end. but the student knows this code, and so there's always concern that, hey, I don't want to be like outed or whatever. Like, this is my thing. If you're live when we're reviewing essays and you want to out yourself, go for it. We're not going to make you out yourself, so you can keep as anonymous as you want. But we will then review as a group and do the exact same thing we just did from the presentation, but now with actual real submissions that you all are submitting in Application Academy. And so we'll go through here and read the description, give the feedback, read the most meaningful, give the feedback, and then we'll go on to the next one. And so you can see here, it moves from activity to, this is a personal statement, seed. It's really hard in a group setting to review a full personal statement altogether. And so how we help with that is we break it down from the full personal statement into seeds and watering events. And so you can see here, here's a watering event submission. Again, you can see the code, so it's anonymous for the student. And we go through this process. We review. Everything is reviewed live. We take all of the ones that we review and make a list so that if you're not able to make it live, you can go to the recording and see where yours was reviewed in that recording. If it was, I'll put a caveat on that. There are some times where we can't get to every single submission during that session. We'll keep that submission for the next session. Last cycle, we didn't have a huge problem getting to everything, but in the past, it's just depending on how many submissions we get. But yeah, we'll review these. I generally ask, because I think this is what helps students grow through this process. I will ask that for the students that are with us, that they chime in and give feedback, because I think that's what makes you grow as a student and as someone going through this process. You're like, oh, I'm learning how to give feedback like Dr. Gray and the rest of the team do. And then when you go into medical school, you can start your own advising company, which I've seen a couple times from past students, which is kind of funny. But yeah, well, I'll ask for your feedback first. I'll give my feedback. We'll see if it aligns. I'll ask for some clarification on why you think, similar to how we did tonight, why you think what you're saying, and we'll go from there. And then really the last piece of Application Academy, the two last pieces, is TA office hours, where it's a current med student who is helping, just like a TA from one of your classes. They're helping review essays. These are people that are handpicked by me, who I'm like, oh, you get our feedback style now. Fantastic. Come and join us and help out. So those are TA office hours. And then the other kind of missing piece outside of essay review is interview prep. And so similar to the essay review, we're in a group setting. I'll take a volunteer to come on and do an interview to practice a question. I'll ask them, like, are you looking to practice an MMI or a traditional interview? Any specific question you're wanting to practice, and then we'll do an interview and I'll give that feedback. So the interview part is where the anonymity kind of goes away. But usually we don't have issues with students. How many in one group? We typically don't cap because we've never had to. Generally, during live sessions, last year was probably our lowest, where we were maybe 10 students or less every single session. Historically, it's been maybe 10 to 15 that are actually live. Most people do Academy asynchronously. But that's Application Academy. Again, it starts next week. It goes through August. That's where you get to hang out with me and learn every step of the application process, and also get feedback along the way. If you're not a big group person, but you want help with the application, we do one-on-one advising. That's not where I'm actively doing things. With our full cycle advising, where you invest in 10 or 20 hours of advising, you get Application Academy as well. So that's a benefit. How long are the sessions? What days and times? So it'll be Monday through Thursday. We don't have the exact times nailed down yet. It's something we need to do probably in the next day. But it'll be an hour-long session each day. And now I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to raise your hand to come on live, you can do so. I just request that when you're done, you leave the waiting room as well. I just lowered 2 hands. If you want to come and ask your question live, you can. But that's all I got. I'm interested in the 20 hours one-on-one advising packages. Does this package include essay editing service? Yeah. So the 20 hours is everything. It's essay editing, it's interview prep, it's all of that. A lot of our students love doing essay editing live. So it'd be on a Zoom call like this. The student shares their screen, and you get immediate feedback, and you as the student can ask clarifying questions. Be like, well, okay, wait a minute, you gave me this feedback. That's what I said there. And then the advisor can go, no, that's not how I read it. And then once they realize what you're trying to say, they can give you better feedback. So we find that the live feedback, the students and advisors really like that. But we have a way for you to submit offline as well and get that's your time deducted based on how many characters you're submitting. How is Application Academy this cycle different from last? It's me only. Last year, we had more sessions, more advisors, and we just felt like it was too much and too confusing for students. And so we're just going back to me as the coach with some TAs. So that's really the biggest difference. Outside of that, I mean, the application is the same. What we're covering is the same. You guys can ask any questions you want too, by the way. If you're struggling with a seed, we can talk about seeds. If you are unsure if you should apply this cycle or not, we don't have to stick to Application Academy specific questions or advising specific questions. I'm here to answer all of your questions. What is your opinion on using AI in writing for the application? Let me give you guys a sneak peek at something fun. Let me see. it'll give you an idea of what my thought is. So this is a tool that should be coming any day now. At the end of the day, students are using AI to work on their essays. That cat's out of the bag. And so we thought, if students are using AI, let's use AI that's trained as best as possible. AI is not fully in control, or we're not fully in control of AI, but let's train AI as best as possible on how we review applications, right? On our philosophy for a personal statement, so that you can submit a personal statement and get feedback on said personal statement. That's very, very, very similar to how we would give feedback. It's not going to be nearly as in depth, but it'll give you a great start. Instead of going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, edit my essay, give me feedback. I love ChatGPT. I use it probably almost every day. But it's not a pre-health advisor. And so we went and kind of trained our own tool here for it. So stay tuned. This, again, any day now, we're hoping to get this out. All right. So if you qualify for FAP, Emily, I saw you answered that question. Just in general for people, it's half off of the regular price. 20% off one-on-one program over this Friday. Yeah. So we normally don't disable the coupon immediately. So like on the website, everything will be over by Friday night, Saturday morning. The coupon will be available. Peter, if there's like anything that you're like, oh, I need 2 more days, 3 more days, just shoot me an email or the team an email. We're usually pretty flexible with that. Christian, I signed into Application Academy. There is nothing under my library. We're actually moving to a different platform. So where you sign up, you'll get moved over there eventually. How important are having publications? Do they help at all? Not important at all. Unless you're applying for MD, PhD, I would say having publications doesn't move the needle much, if at all. How many hours would you recommend per student for private advising? It really comes down to the student. Hello, Lauren. I know you. Looking back at historic data the last 2 years, the average has been around 12 to 15, which is annoying because we have 10 and 20 on the website. So we have actually a new checkout process that's coming where it'll let you dial in a little bit better, maybe what you want. And you're like, okay, I want more than 10, but I don't want 20. How about 14? So we'll have that soon. My recommendation is always start at 10 and we can add more hours at a discount. But if the student's like, I know I'm going to use the heck out of this, that's my personality is I have that advisor there. I'm going to use them. I'm super type A and I'm going to meet every week or whatever. Then they'll probably need more. And so starting at 20 might make sense there. Garima, all the pricing is on the website. I'll put a link here that you can go to. Example of a seed. How many of you, I love doing this. And so it'll take someone who's a little bit vulnerable to come on if you want to talk through finding your seed. If you're like, I don't think I have a seed. And as a reminder, a seed is, again, the kind of fake made up thing that I created for this personal statement book, just as a metaphor for how to think about why you want to be a physician is what was that exposure into healthcare that led you to know that healthcare was a thing and you wanted to go explore it. So for me, I hurt my shoulder playing baseball in high school. I went to a physical therapist and then decided to go into medicine or go into physical therapy. I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to become a physical therapist. And then I decided to pivot into medicine later. Benita, do you want to talk about seeds? Yeah? All right. Let's bring you on. You were on the other night too. What's going on?
Hi,
Hi there.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So what do you think your seed is?
I think my seed is when I was in ESL classes in elementary school, and then I did really well in my science and JS session. And then my dad got sick, and I got excited. I mean, not excited. I got introduced to a physician who helped my dad recover.
Mhm.
And then my teacher started rigging my tests in high school to prepare me.
Okay.
Like they gave me a different test. So I still passed
Why would
it.
your teachers give you a different test?
I don't know. I
That's
don't want to
weird.
talk about it. I have no idea why. But I still passed. So I didn't do I mean I still passed, but it like made me get stronger into the field of medicine.
Yeah. I think potentially your seed is your dad getting sick.
Yeah,
How
that's
how
right.
old were you when that happened?
Probably 9 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't really
Yes.
care that much,
What do
to
you
be
mean you didn't
honest.
care?
Yeah, I mean, I was really young, but then I started caring because I took school seriously and I lost like a lot of weight and I took care of my habits and like that. And then I remember my dad getting sick when my friend told me about medical school. And I was like, oh, this is so fun. And then I like pediatrician because I literally love children and I love taking care of children.
Okay. Yeah. So again, first seed, I think your dad getting sick is probably a good place to start, and then going from there. Anyone else want to talk about your seed? You can raise your hand and come on. Albert, yes, you can ask a personal question if you want. Random question, but why do they cap the FAP at 26? So the age of 26, or like not include the parents' tax? Because they don't have to. The AAMC is their own private organization. They can make whatever rules they want. It's actually nice that. So first of all, they don't cap the FAP at 26. So 26, and maybe I'm not understanding the question. 26, at the age of 26, you no longer have to report your parents' financial information. That's a good thing, because historically it was no matter how old you were. Christian, yeah, anyone can come on and ask anything. Go ahead and come on. Alma, yeah, I need to understand what you're asking a little bit more. What's an MCAT no-go score for applications? It really depends, Ryan, on the student. I talked to a student today who got a 517 and is thinking about retaking. I would never retake a 517. I talked to another student today who had a 506 and isn't planning on retaking. It really depends on the student. Christian, what's up?
Hey, Dr. Gray. I just wanted to come on here and ask a question about one
We've
of the
chatted
activities.
before live, haven't we?
Yes, it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have you have the face of a model, dude. I couldn't forget that.
I appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
What's up, man?
So I have an activity that I started a nonprofit called Bricks for Change because when I was 18, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and I built Legos as a way to get my mind off the whole diagnosis and the process of treatment. Okay. So I wanted to start a nonprofit where I donate Legos to kids with cancer.
That's amazing.
And in that process, thank you. And in that process, I got together a bunch of my friends and we kind of started this whole thing. We've donated 550 Lego sets and a bunch of money towards that.
Does Lego know about you?
No, I wish.
Dude, we need to work on that. Okay.
I would love to. I've reached out, but it's a little bit hard. There's people that do it in Chicago that have a larger following than I do. I do more locally down here in Southern California, and I kind of just try to help where I can.
Where there's Legoland?
Yeah, I worked at Legoland, and they did not want to be affiliated with me at all.
Okay.
And then I'm in the process of making it 501c3, or tax deductible and all that. So I'm not there yet where I can full on get like backing by companies and stuff. But my main question was, do I label this as non-clinical volunteering? Do I label this as leadership? Part of the mission as well is to raise awareness for all types of cancer every month. Every month there's a different cancer awareness. And so my goal is on Instagram to post about the cancers of the month, not just honing in on one, but every month what the different cancers are and the information about that. And I brought it up before, and I was told that it leans leadership and then it leans clinical volunteering in a way since I'm helping cancer patients. But I don't know your approach to how I should talk about it. And it's also my most meaningful one of them. So I don't really know your thoughts and perspective on approaching that.
At the end of the day, I generally leave it up to the student to decide how they want to categorize it. And
if I categorize it one way, can I add in
it?
Yeah. So like say label it as leadership, right? Which it is. I'm leading a team. I have my friends, etc. We do meetings, like all of that. But then I also talk about within the description the impact I've had on like people reaching out to me, and then how they mentioned that the Legos help keep their mind off things and have a story
good
there.
Clarification. So talk to me. The leadership side is an easy one to understand. What would be the other category that you would label it as?
non-clinical or clinical volunteering.
Okay.
Is
So sell me on clinical volunteering.
we post weekly and monthly about different cancers of the month, and we spread awareness about self-detection and being in tune with your body and knowing the differences.
Not clinical.
Not clinical.
Right? Because it's not
directly with the patient. Yeah.
So that to me is an easy no. It's not clinical.
Okay.
And so the other one would be non-clinical volunteering.
Yeah.
That's an easy one to see as well.
Yeah.
And so you could do two activities and label one as leadership and one as non-clinical volunteering. And you would just have to be careful to say, okay, out of the, I'm just going to use a nice even number of 100 hours, right? Out of the 100 hours that I've done in this activity, how much has truly been leadership where I'm directing and leading the team versus how much has been the actual like worker bee volunteering, doing the work. And then you say, okay, 25% is leadership. So I'm going to put 25 hours as leadership. And then I'm going to have a separate activity that's 75 hours for non-clinical volunteering.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. My biggest constraint with that right now is that I'm already at the 15 activities. So I'm tight for room there. And splitting it is like, I don't know if I can. So my idea was to talk about both aspects within the most meaningful description and the...
You can. I have a button. I think it's still here. There are no rules.
Yeah, I was gonna say the button.
Come on, Christian, you know the rules.
Yeah.
There are no rules.
Okay. And really weird addition to that. Do you recommend at all including a link to a website as if something like for this?
No. No, because the links don't work. Right?
Got it. Yeah. It's not like a hyperlink in the application.
Yeah, they're not going to click on things and link and stuff. But the actual like experience name or title, they'll be able to Google that if they're interested in looking for more.
Okay. Sweet. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.
Good to see you again.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. Bye. All right. Who else has questions? Let's see. Again, if you want to come on and ask your question, you can do so. What's the best way to improve interview skills for a shy, quiet person? Do more interviews. Easy. No thesaurus, right? Not sure what you mean by that. Do you have suggestions on how to gain leadership opportunities during a gap year? Honestly, leadership is interesting because you don't have to have a leadership role to put leadership on your application. You don't have to have a VP or president or whatever type of role in anything that you're doing to actually have leadership. It's showing that impact on who you are, what you do. All right. I have a 3.35 GPA over 10 years of trying to get my bachelor. Story for another time, but my upward trend is that I transferred to a 4-year university in the fall of 2022. Have a 3.9 GPA at the 4-year over 54 units. Good enough, or do I need a postbac? Rock and roll, dude. I think that's fine. Graduated in the spring of 24. Fantastic. Go for it. Yeah. I think 54 credits at a 3.9 GPA, assuming mostly science classes, Albert, would be the caveat to that. Congrats. It's a lot of work. Good job. Albert says, yay. Fantastic. All right. Anyone else want to come on and ask a question? Let's see. Most of my clinical research is more ethnography, base research qualitative, while some is also shadowing PCP. Would that serve as clinical experience and research? I have no idea, Alma. I'm not really sure what a lot of those words mean. It's more ethnography. So, number one, let's. Yeah, I need to know more about what exactly you're doing in the research. You say some is also shadowing the PCP. Shadowing wouldn't be research, so I'm not sure what that means. I wrote a draft of my personal statement. I feel like how I write about clinical experience could be better. Any advice on what to focus on, things to avoid? Yeah, I mean, check out my book, but at the end of the day, the goal of the personal statement, as we talked about earlier, is why do you want to be a physician? So as long as you're kind of focusing on that and showing who you are through the process, a common mistake is focusing too much on the patient and not enough on you. You're kind of using the patient to highlight you in these situations. And then again, we'll have our essay tool coming soon. I would potentially be interested in Application Academy. Just wondering how detrimental it would be to not be able to attend sessions live. Most of our students don't come live, so I don't think it'd be super detrimental. Do you have a take on mental health being the seed? I know some schools don't prefer this, but is it? But if it's the absolute reason to pursue medicine, is this possible? Yeah, so that's kind of the caveat that I always give when talking about mental health on an application, specifically the personal statement. If it is your reason for being a physician, like your seed, your reason for wanting to explore healthcare, I think you have to talk about it because that's the authentic story. And then there are ways to write about it without making it seem like it's a red flag. So it just comes down to how you're doing it, but you could potentially add it. Ethnography is basically field observations and interview based. So basically shadowing PCPs or patients in clinics and the community orgs. Yeah, at the end of the day, it comes down to what are you doing? What are you specifically doing? If you're shadowing, that's shadowing. That's nothing. If you are like recording things for the research purposes, then I would probably put that as research and not clinical. Hello, an activity such as volunteering to help people with disabilities with swimming, would you consider this clinical? Probably not. It's not in a medical setting, and I'm not sure if it would count as patient care. Probably not. I worked on a study in my lab last year that involved assessing medical devices on healthy and disordered voices. Could make a joke right now, but I won't, about someone in the administration. Can this be looked at as clinical experience, or do I keep it as research? At the end of the day, clinical experience, labeling something as clinical is completely up to you. But ideally, you're labeling clinical experience based on your interactions with patients in some sort of clinical-ish way. And so potentially you're assessing medical devices on healthy and disordered voices. If you're the one actually interacting with the patients and testing these devices and doing that kind of stuff, then potentially that is clinical. It just depends on how you're going to write about it and what that looks like. Does it look bad if you started shadowing, for example, maybe 2 to 3 months before the application cycle opens? Potentially. Christian's back. We'll bring on Shimate as well. Hello again.
Hey, Dr. Gray. Okay, I got another question. So
Yep.
I'm in the process of making a med school list, and I've watched the podcast on the whole med school list, and I know your number one thing is don't make it based off stats and make sure not to look at.
So much hate. I get so much hate for that.
No, it's valid in the sense that, like, I understand your perspective, and I also understand the other perspective, and I'm kind of just trying to figure out where I land. And the reason I bring that up is because I have a very decent GPA, 394. I feel like I have a strong application, but then my MCAT score came very mid, very mid. So I got a 502, 126 in Chem Phys, 123 cars, which is not fun, 128 in biochem, and then 125 in psych, which is lower than every average I've had before in the psych. Okay. So I'm in the process of retaking in March, but in this process as well, like I'm trying to come up with a med school list, and I just see all the averages being way higher. And I'm looking at the 10%, the bottom quartile, and I'm looking at, okay, some schools have like a 505 bottom 10%, but like, am I still in the running at all for these schools if I'm outside of the 10%? Do I take them off? Do I keep them on? Like, I just don't know how to approach it. In the event that, ideally my MCAT score comes back better. But
I mean, at the end of the day, when you say outside of the 10%, like, what does that even mean? Because 10% is a number, and then 10% of the class is below it. So what is outside of 10%?
I guess I mean, the little bar, right? That's what I'm talking about. I see a little bar, and then I'm like left at the bar.
Right? At the end of the day, the problem is that the medical schools are not transparent enough to say this is our minimum. Now, 502 is low. For most MD schools, it's a low number, unfortunately, right? Reality is what it is. It's outside one standard deviation. But going back to what you led with, I know that what you say, don't build your school list off of your stats. That's my answer. And you're retaking the MCAT, so focus on the MCAT. Worry about your school list later. I think, you're kind of digging your own grave, worrying so much about the 502 when ultimately, hopefully, you get a much better score.
Yeah. Good point. That makes sense. Yeah.
And
I guess it's just like me being a pre-med brain trying to figure that out, right? Like, it's just like,
don't do that.
It's hard to not think about it.
Albert says decent GPA being 394 is crazy work. I think you were saying that sarcastically. I guess it's somewhat decent GPA. Cool. All right, man.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Hello, friend.
Hello, Dr. Gray. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Pretty good. So I do have a couple questions. So my undergrad GPA is 3.16.
Okay.
So it's pretty low. But I just took my science classes and I did about 30. As I mentioned earlier, I do have 30 credits. They're all online, all sciences. And I did get all A's on all of them.
Yep.
So, I mean, it does show, upward trend, but, and I do have my MCAT scheduled in April. I'm really studying for it really hard, and I do hope to do good. Do you think that would be still an issue, or do you think I stand a chance at this?
Ultimately, that's everyone just wants to know, do I have a chance?
Yeah.
The 316, does that include your 30 credits at a 4.0?
No, it does not.
Why
It's just
not?
only my undergrad without the 30 credits. With
Is
that
the 30
one,
credits
it would be
graduate work?
5.7. The 30 credits I took with all of them together, it's about like 3.7.
The 30 credits, is that master's level or undergrad level?
Just DUI. It's like do it yourself.
DIY.
I did
DIY.
Yeah.
Can't talk. DIY.
Yeah.
But undergrad.
Yes. I did take a couple that are like upper level courses, like 300, 400, but
undergrad.
They are undergrad.
Undergrad.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't have a 316 GPA, undergrad GPA. You have whatever it is all combined together.
Even though I graduated with my bachelor?
Yeah, because it's still your undergrad GPA.
Okay.
So you have your post-bac GPA, which is what this is, 4.0.
Right.
But your undergraduate GPA still includes that. So that's fantastic. I mean, the only potential question, we talked about this earlier during pre-med office hours, is some schools are going to be biased against the online courses. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
So focus on the MCAT, put together a good application, rock and roll.
Okay, and I do have one more question real quick. And then, so I do have, well, on the activity sections, I'm planning on like starting on those ones, and hours wide. I know that you mentioned like expected hours or what I've done. And I've played guitar for like, since I was like a long time ago, like over a decade. At the same time, the same thing with volunteering. My mom is a volunteer coordinator, so pretty much all my life I've like went on the weekend doing those things. So how do I manage? I don't want to be like 4,000 hours, so like
you'd be surprised. I see some crazy numbers.
And I don't want to do that. So where is the line?
The line is do something that makes sense or just put 0.
Oh, okay.
Especially for a hobby.
Okay.
0 I think is fine. It makes sense. I've seen some hobbies where I'm like, why did you pick this random number? Because it doesn't like it just, anyway. 0 is completely fine. Or just estimate and just say, hey, like 2,000 hours, 3,000 hours, I think is fine, especially if it's a long period of time. Where if I did the math, I'm like, okay, over that long period of time, this many hours, that's like 10 hours a month. Yeah, that sounds reasonable for a hobby.
Okay, it won't be considered like I'm lying, because I want to put like maybe 1,000 or 2, and then say, hey, I played soccer all my life, kind of thing, on the description, and now he'd help me in as who I am right now. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Good job.
All right. Thanks.
Shimate, have we talked before? I don't know if I've ever actually talked to you versus just answering your questions. Dr. Ray, would working as an EMT at a water park be considered strong clinical experience? Maybe. It's a little different. It's like a souped up lifeguard. I generally don't consider lifeguard clinical experience. I know some students try to put that on their application. You can, right? You can do whatever you want. But I'm not a huge fan of lifeguard as clinical. And I don't know if EMT at a water park, what that potentially looks like. But yeah, I mean, if you're working as an EMT, that's clinical. For an activity that you're on call for, but you aren't physically going in until you do get a call, you just got to estimate those hours. Same thing for like a 24-hour shift as an EMT. Do like 8 hours. Don't do the full 24, unless like a lot of times you're out for the full 24 hours. A lot of it's just estimating. All right, one more question here. I'm a coach, and it started as a volunteer position a few years ago. Now it's a paid position. The role itself hasn't really changed. I wouldn't do those as separate time periods. I would just put it as a paid position, and then as part of the descriptions, say I started this position in a volunteer role for 2 years. And just some quick thing that shows that. All right, friends, applicationacademy.com. I would love to see you there to help you with your applications through the medical school application process. Thank you all for hanging out with me this evening. Hopefully you learned something a little bit more today about how to put together a good application. If you need to schedule a consult to learn a little bit more in depth how we help with students and what we do day in and day out as advisors, you can go to mshqconsult.com. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.